6 of the greatest creations in human history are gone forever. A glowing temple, a giant bronze statue that could rival the Statue of Liberty, a lighthouse taller than a skyscraper, and a garden that seemed impossible to exist in the desert. Today, only one wonder remains standing. So what happened to the rest? Were they destroyed by fire, swallowed by earthquakes, or maybe never real at all? When you hear 7 wonders of the ancient world, you probably think of the Great Pyramid of Giza. But that's just one. The original list was a kind of travel guide written by ancient Greeks who wanted to highlight the most jaw-dropping sights known to humanity. These were monuments of ambition, pride, faith, and power. Yet somehow 6 of them vanished. Today we're going to dig into their rise and fall, the mysteries that still surround them, and the strange ways they continue to echo through history. The problem is simple but shocking. Humanity built wonders that were supposed to last forever, yet only one survives. Earthquakes, fire, greed, and even pure chance wiped out the others. And in at least one case, we're not even sure it existed. So the question becomes, what destroyed them, and why did we let them disappear? The Great Pyramid of Giza is the oldest wonder and the only one still standing. Built more than 4,500 years ago for Pharaoh Khufu, it's made of over 2 million stone blocks, each weighing tons. The engineering was so precise that the base is almost perfectly square, with sides aligned almost exactly to the cardinal directions. But here's the part most people forget. The pyramid once looked completely different. Its casing stones, made of polished white limestone, reflected the sun so brightly that the whole structure glowed. Imagine sailing on the Nile and seeing a giant shining triangle rising out of the desert. It wasn't just a tomb. It was a cosmic symbol designed to connect the pharaoh with the gods. It survived because of its location on stable bedrock, its sheer size, and Egypt's dry climate. Others tried to dismantle it, even stripping stones to build mosques and palaces in Cairo, but the core was too massive to erase. The Great Pyramid remains a stubborn survivor of time. The Hanging Gardens are the most mysterious wonder because no one knows if they actually existed. Ancient Greek writers describe them as a man-made mountain of greenery in the middle of the desert, terraces overflowing with trees, flowers, and waterfalls. Some claimed they were built by King Nebuchadnezzar Theotokles, his wife, who missed the mountains of her homeland. But here's the catch. Archaeologists have found no trace of such a structure in Babylon. What they did find, though, were records from Assyria describing advanced irrigation systems in Nineveh, including aqueducts, and something that sounds like an early water screw, possibly Archimedes' screw centuries before Archimedes. This has led some experts to argue the gardens weren't in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, over 300 miles away. So maybe the gardens were real but misplaced. Or maybe they were just a legend repeated so many times that everyone assumed they existed. If they were real, they probably felt a drought, war, or time. If they weren't, then one of history's greatest wonders is nothing but a story. The Greeks were masters of sculpture, but nothing compared to the statue of Zeus at Olympia. Created by the sculptor Phidias around 435 BCE, it was a 12-meter-tall seated figure made of ivory and gold plates. Zeus held a small statue of Nike, the goddess of victory, in one hand, and a scepter topped with an eagle in the other. Visitors swore it looked so lifelike it felt as though Zeus himself was present in the temple. The statue wasn't just art, it was tied to the Olympic Games, which were held in Zeus's honor. Pilgrims traveled from all over Greece and beyond just to see it. But its size and materials also made it vulnerable. The temple was damaged by earthquakes, and later the statue was moved to Constantinople. There, sometime in the 5th century CE, a fire consumed it. Nothing remains but written descriptions and images on coins. Think about that. One of the most breathtaking sights in the world, gone so completely that today, we can't even be sure what his face looked like. The Temple of Artemis was so magnificent that ancient writers said it outshone all other buildings. It had 127 marble columns, each nearly 20 meters high, and was decorated with priceless art. Inside stood a statue of Artemis herself, worshipped as both goddess of the hunt and protector of fertility. But fate wasn't kind. The first version was destroyed by a flood. The second, burned down in 356 BCE by Herostratus, Ammon, who set it on fire just so people would remember his name. His plan worked. We remember his name even though the city banned it. The temple was rebuilt even larger, but centuries later it was looted by the Goths. Finally, Christianity's rise turned Artemis's temple into rubble, with its stones reused for other buildings. Today, only one column stands in a swampy field in Turkey. Once the grandest temple in the world, now reduced to a lonely pillar in the mud. King Mausolus wasn't a ruler of a vast empire, but his tomb made him unforgettable. Built by his grieving wife Artemisia in 350 BCE, the mausoleum stood nearly 45 meters tall and combined Greek, Egyptian, and Lycian styles. Its walls were covered with carvings of battles, lions, and horsemen. At the top stood a chariot pulled by massive marble horses. It survived long enough to impress visitors for almost 1,500 years. But earthquakes in the Middle Ages brought it down. Later, Crusaders tore apart its remains and used the stone to build Bodrum Castle, which still stands today. So the mausoleum didn't completely vanish, it simply became part of another monument. Even the word mausoleum comes from this wonder, meaning any grand tomb. The Colossus was a 33-meter-tall statue of Helios, the sun god, built to celebrate Rhodes's victory over an invading army. It was made of bronze plates over an iron framework, much like how modern statues are built. But it didn't last. Just 56 years after it was completed, an earthquake snapped it at the knees. The giant collapsed, and there it lay for centuries. Even in ruins, people traveled to Rhodes to marvel at the fallen giant. Ancient writers said each finger was bigger than a man, and few people could wrap their arms around its thumb. In the 7th century CE, Arab traders sold the broken statue as scrap metal. Melted down, the Colossus became weapons, tools, and coins, its glory scattered into ordinary objects. On the island of Pharos near Alexandria, Egypt, stood the Lighthouse of Alexandria, guiding ships into one of the busiest ports of the ancient world. Built in the 3rd century BCE, it rose between 100 and 130 meters high, making it the second tallest structure on Earth after the Great Pyramid. By day, sunlight reflected off mirrors at the top. At night, a giant fire blazed, visible for miles. For over 1,000 years, it stood as a symbol of safety and engineering genius. But earthquakes between the 10th and 14th centuries slowly reduced it to rubble. By the time travelers wrote about it in the Middle Ages, it was already gone. Today, divers have found its remains on the seafloor near Alexandria, giant blocks and statues lying in the water. So technically, the lighthouse isn't completely lost. It's just sleeping beneath the waves. And here's the truth. Out of 7 wonders, only one survives. But even the ones that vanished didn't disappear completely. Their stones were recycled into castles. Their images live on in coins. Their stories echo in myths and legends. The wonders may be gone, but their fingerprints are still all around us. The 7 wonders show us both the power and fragility of human achievement. They were meant to last forever, but forever turned out to be much shorter than their builders imagined. Earthquakes, fires, invasions, nothing is permanent. Yet even in ruins, they still inspire us. That's their true legacy, not the stones themselves, but the imagination they spark. Maybe we'll never walk through the Hanging Gardens or stand beneath the Colossus. But the fact that we're still talking about them 2,000 years later, that's a wonder in itself. Subscribe to uncover the next hidden secret history tried to erase.